Hi, Dr. Yass here. This video is designed to give you some insight into the type of questions you want answered when you go to your doctor to seek a diagnosis to address the cause of your pain, to establish what is causing your pain, regardless of where the pain is in your body. Typically, most people recognize that the MRI is the primary mechanism for establishing a cause, and structural variations are identified like herniated disc stenosis, arthritis, meniscal tears, labral tears, things of this nature. And typically, because the structural variation is identified at the time of the pain, it is asserted to be the cause of the pain. I want those seeking care to be smarter than your doctor. I want you to come to your doctor's appointment with ammunition. I want you to ask them to answer specific questions that will help to understand what tissue is in distress eliciting your symptoms. If these questions can't be answered, it becomes almost impossible for a proper diagnosis to be achieved. So these are three questions that I really feel need to be addressed before any diagnosis can be established, and therefore the correct treatment be performed so that the tissue in distress can be resolved, thereby ending its need to elicit the distress signal of pain. So the first one is, what is the range of motion of the joint that is presenting with pain? Now, when I talk about range of motion, I'm not talking about if there is a limitation due to pain. This has to do with, is there a structural impedance? So if we're looking at the shoulder, for instance, it's not enough to say, oh, I can't raise my arm anymore because of pain. That's not what this is about. This is a question of whether someone can move the joint through range of motion. And if there is a structural impedance, it will feel like a bone is hitting another bone, stopping the range of motion. And therefore, it would feel like a blockage, not from pain, but simply the fact it cannot move any further. If you try to push through that point, it would feel like there is a structural limitation, like a bone is hitting another bone. If, in fact, that structural impedance is there, well, there's a high probability that there is a structural cause. If it is not there, regardless of what the MRI identifies, it is not the cause of the pain. This is the big transformational moment that people will get. Just because a structural variation is identified does not mean it is causing the pain. It could be there completely independent of the cause of the pain and may have been there for years, if not decades, prior to the pain beginning. You're just identifying it for the first time because you have pain, which then caused the opportunity for the diagnostic test to be taken and the structural variation identified. So, number one question, what is the range of motion of the joint where the pain is being experienced? If there is a structural limitation, not a limitation due to pain, but an impedance of the joint going through range of motion, and at that point, if you try to push through it feeling like it is being blocked, we now know you have a structural variation. If it does not exist, even if there is pain, if you can go through the range of motion pretty much equivalent to the opposite side, you do not have a structural cause. You should discount any positive diagnostic test finding, and it appears and will present as a muscular cause. Number two, where is your pain? Where is your pain? As if that has no impact on the diagnosis based on the medical establishment. As far as they're concerned, your hair can be on fire, and yet if I find a labral tear on an MRI at the shoulder or an arthritic change at the shoulder, I can now say the hair on fire is the cause, regardless of where that symptom is. That's not how it works. Every tissue that's in distress elicits a very specific symptom. That's why the correlation exists where if the structural variations elicits a very specific symptom, interpreting the very specific symptom allows you to identify the tissue in distress. So we'll go back to our shoulder issue. If you're having pain right in the front of the shoulder, through a physical evaluation, including palpation, which is touching, I would be able to establish that the very thing I'm pressing on, which is eliciting your pain, is the bicep tendon. Everyone knows the bicep is in the front of the arm, but that actually runs via a tendon all the way through the shoulder. So if I knew that the tissue in distress, by pressing and understanding that at the front of the shoulder is the bicep tendon, then because arthritis was found or a labral tear was found, you have to be able to recognize that that labral tear or arthritis is degenerative in nature, has been there for years, and is not responsible for causing your pain. The bicep tendon is the tissue I'm pressing on, eliciting your pain. This is why understanding where the pain is so critical. I can't tell you how many times people have pain at the inner knee region and have been told that the cause of their inner knee region pain is from a meniscal tear or arthritis at the knee joint. And when I establish where the actual pain exists, it turns out that it's at the point at which the medial hamstring attaches. It's not even at the knee joint. It's in the knee region, but not at the knee joint. So if it's not at the knee joint, some structural variation at the knee joint can't be creating the symptom. It's just the way it is. This has to make sense to people. Number 2 issue. Where is your pain? So number 1, range of motion. Yes or no? Number 2, where is your pain? Number 3, and finally, what brings on your symptom, your pain? If you tell me that standing for a long period of time causes your pain, but if you sit, you don't have pain, or sitting for a long period of time causes pain, but if you then stand up, the pain resolves, walking up a flight of stairs, walking, kneeling, bending, twisting, looking at a computer for a long period of time, reaching, if you tell me that an activity is associated with inciting your pain, but resting does nothing or actually takes the pain away, ladies and gentlemen, you have just told yourself you have a muscular cause to your symptom. Again, I don't care what the MRI says or what structural variation was identified. It clearly indicates that that structural variation was degenerative in nature, is degenerative in nature, and is independent of the cause of your symptoms. If you could tell me that activity brings on your symptom and resting stops the symptom, your cause is muscular, period. Think about the logic. You're told that you have stenosis of your lower back and that standing brings on your pain, but that if you sit, the pain goes away. So is the implication, because this is what it would mean from a logical perspective, standing, you have stenosis, but sitting, you are now unstenosised. You don't have stenosis. That if you don't have pain, if I were to do an MRI while you're sitting, you don't have the stenosis. But if you stand up, if I do the MRI, you do have the stenosis. You would have to see how moronic this idea is. You have arthritis in your shoulder is causing your pain. When you're relaxed, you have, and you don't have pain, you don't have arthritis. I would do an X-ray and you wouldn't see arthritis. But when you raise your arm, you do have pain. Oh, I would do the X-ray and arthritis would present. That's what they're trying to convey to you. That's the psychotic nature of what you're being told. So the purpose of the video is to make you smarter. Make you come in with ammunition. Make the doctor have to explain all of these issues. And if they can't, or like so many doctors I've been told about, will simply walk out the door, don't believe that doctor. Don't get treated by that doctor. See them for what they are. Incapable of understanding the elements that are required to establish the true cause of your pain. if they are simply robotic and say, I don't really care what your symptoms are, that I will simply follow what an MRI or X-ray says, that's not the person you want trying to diagnose your symptoms. Okay? So 3 things you need answered before you'll accept any diagnosis. Is the range of motion there or not there? And I'm talking about impeded, not reduced by pain. Where are your symptoms? You have to be able to show exactly what. It's not the knee region. It's a very, very specific area in the knee region, or in the shoulder, or in the back. If your pain is 2 inches off your spine and someone's telling you that there's a structural variation at the spine causing your pain, you have to say to yourself, that's insanity. If the structural variation's at the spine, I have to have the symptom at the spine. It can't be 2 inches off. Clearly, that's a different tissue. Right? And then, so we have range of motion, we have where is your pain, and finally, what brings on your pain. Those are the 3 things I want you trying to understand before you accept any diagnosis, okay? Let's be smart. Let's protect ourselves. All right. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you like my channel, Dr. Mitchell Yass on YouTube, please subscribe so you can get notifications when new videos like these type of videos are coming out or when I'm live on YouTube. If this stuff is starting to percolate in your brain and you're saying, wow, this guy sounds like he really knows what he's talking about versus everybody else, and you'd like to ask a question or you'd like to make a Zoom or Skype session for an evaluation and treatment, you can contact me at my email address at drmitch@mitchellyass.com, drmitch at mitchellyass.com, drmitch@mitchellyass.com. Let's get smart, folks. Let's help us understand what it takes to get the right diagnosis. Clearly, the existing system is failing. You are not getting the right diagnosis. That is why chronic pain exists. What does it say above my head? Misdiagnosis equals chronic pain. Here are 3 key questions that need to be answered before you will accept any diagnosis. All right? Okay, folks. For now, this is Dr. Mitchell Yass wishing you a pain-free, fully functional life. Bye-bye for now.